we play a game?
Why, yes, I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Not live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. That's right, we are not live this week. In fact, we are coming to you pre-recorded via the magic of Zencastr, which I'm using for the first time along with my guest, and we will be talking about that later in the show. Again, this is Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love, which was both a broadcast FM Geek Talk radio show and a podcast because I love both mediums. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for joining me, whether you're listening over the air or via the stream on 96.5 FM The Answer at 96.5fmtheanswer.com, or if you're listening recorded and delayed by podcast or Krypton radio. I'm just glad to have you no matter how you're here. Now, normally I would give out the call-in number and my Twitter and all that at this point in case people wanted to interact with the show. But since this is pre-recorded, I won't throw out the phone number, but I will say, you know, if you want to follow me on Twitter or whatever, you can follow me at Shane Plays. That's ShanePlays. And during the live shows, people can, you know, tweet me at that. And I always try to work in people's questions and comments into the live show. Speaking of the show, the notes and links for this show will be up at shaneplays.com for the podcast and Krypton radio version. It's very likely, since this is pre-recorded, they might be up for the version that you hear at 1 o'clock on Saturday the 16th, 1 p.m. Central. But, you know, they'll definitely be up for the podcast and the Krypton radio version. Now, last week's show is archived on the blog and is out by podcast. And that was, we were talking about Cosplay Con fraud, somebody who was a fraudster, a confidence artist, and took advantage of anywhere up to $30,000 from people at a cosplay con here in Little Rock. And some of that money was actually literally intended for kids with cancer. So please listen to that show if you didn't already, and listen. And for two reasons. One, let's help get the word out on this guy so that he doesn't do this to anybody else. And maybe we can, you know, let the other shoe drop on him and flush him out. But also it's chock full of warning signs that you might hear or encounter and help you or somebody else avoid a similar situation, because there were, in retrospect, they were like, oh, there was a lot of warning signs here, but the people weren't looking for that at the time. So they didn't know to be, you know, on the alert. Anyway, you can go check that out. It was a really good show. It was a little bit different because we normally have fun here on Shane Plays. And last week was not quite as fun as it could be, but it was a very important show. And as they used to say, it was a very special episode of Shane Plays. So go check that out. And it did end on a positive note. I do want to, so make sure to listen to it all the way through. This show, as I've said, does go out as a podcast in addition to being Geek Talk Radio, FM radio. It goes out on the blog at shaneplays.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and more, including I put it up on YouTube. And then Shane Plays is carried, last but never least, on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is SciFi for your Wi-Fi, kryptonradio.com. And Gene Turnbow does a fantastic job over there with the internet's geek 24/7 radio station. It's really good stuff. So go check that out. I've got some other show notes to get into here, but first I want to introduce our guest. And my guest is a cool dude. He's got his geeky fingers and many, many cool geeky things. And he also introduced me to Zencastr. He's the one who's told me about Zencastr, and it's Jared Nielson, aka DM Jared of Illusionist. And Illusionist, among other things, is responsible for the Mythoard monthly cool RPG products service that you can subscribe to. So Jared, welcome to Shane Plays.
Thanks a lot, Shane.
Yeah, you sound great on the Zencastr service. So tell us a little bit about what Illusionist is and some of the things that you do.
Well, we decided that every geek has his own flavor that he likes to chase. So we have monthly subscription crates. We started about in the year 2015 as the very first role-playing game subscription crate called Mythoard. We didn't call it Myth Crate. We call it a Hoard because our goal was to give you like a dragon's hoard full of product every month.
Which is cool.
Yeah, and it turned into a really neat venue for small press publishers and people who had, not the big guys. So we gave all the little guys a shot at sending out their role-playing games. We have modules, we have maps, we have little miniatures, we have terrain, dice, accessories. But it basically gives the little guys a chance to get in there and get their product in front of a couple hundred people at a time and get some feedback. So
nice.
We support small press, and this is the way to get it out.
Well, in addition to Mythoard, you have some other monthly crate services, including, I didn't even know this till after we got to talking. One of the sponsors for Shane Plays is actually Trollord Games. And if I'm not mistaken, you have a monthly crate service. It's either for Castles or Crusades specifically or Trollord Games in general. So is that correct?
Yeah, that's the thing. Every gamer is different, but we find that if you're a Cthulhu cultist, you really like to focus the products that get sent to you based on Cthulhu. So we have CthulhuCrate.com. We also found that people just love collecting dice. They don't even play the games, but they pilfer the dice out of every board game they come across. So
yeah, I love dice. I'm a dice collector myself.
Yeah, and I actually wasn't before, but now I am, which is a great sickness to have. But the dice crate we have is called Dwarven Crate. So Dwarven Crate is a monthly subscription crate for dice, and then we have Dragon Crate, which is for terrain, and then of course we stumbled across some manufacturers. So we are now the official monthly subscription crate for Pinnacle Entertainment Group, which is the
excellent.
Savage World
Sure.
system.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. Shane Henley's a really good friend of mine. And then Stephen Chano, you may not know, but a long time ago, I had this crazy idea of moving my entire family to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, only because Gary Gygax lived there, which is not the right reason to move your family.
Yeah.
But I was young and foolish.
People have chased worse dreams. So,
right.
Yeah.
So I went to Gary's porch, which is like Mecca for me. And this is when he had the falling out with TSR, and I left a napkin on his doorstep saying, "Hey, Gary, I'll set up a website for you. If you're interested, here's my phone number," which, isn't creepy at all. So I, sure enough, I got a phone call a couple of days later, and Stephen Chano was also working with Gary at the same time to develop his first Castles and Crusades games that Gary Gygax was involved in. So that's kind of how I met with Stephen, and ever since we've been, distant but good friends.
That's a great story. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So a lot of people don't know that Trollord actually worked with Gary quite a bit following the TSR days. Stephen and some of those folks, they can tell you some great stories, spin some yarns, as it were. And it's actually, it's cool to have Trollord right here in Little Rock. The Trollord building, if you will, is just a couple of miles from where I do my radio show. And Steve, he will join the show sometimes. He really enjoys coming on when he has the time to do it. So I want to definitely talk today a little bit about maybe what it takes. I don't want to get into your business model. I don't want to give away any secret sauce, but I would like, what does it take to do these crate services? Because they're, in the geeky world, a lot of people love them. And there's probably some interest in how do you get all this cool stuff, to put in them and that sort of thing. And then later in the show, we're going to talk about courtesy Illusionist magazine. We're going to highlight 3 top Kickstarters that Illusionist magazine feels is worth looking at. And then there's going to be I believe an article on the Illusionist website that will expand that to a full 10 if people would like to know more. So that's pretty much going to be today's show, or the content of today's show. And we're hoping to make the Kickstarter highlighting a recurring segment here on Shane Plays. So definitely, if you like what you hear today, let me know and let Illusionist magazine know, and let Jared know, or Mythoard, or whoever, that you liked it, and we'll keep doing it for you. I think that Kickstarter is an amazing service and has helped bring so many cool things to the table, if you'll pardon the wordplay when it comes to games. And in fact, I just got a cool Kickstarter in with Polyhero dice, those custom dice that they do. I got the wizard set. I'm waiting on Dust City Outlaws from Rodney Thompson, that RPG, to come in. I think maybe even this month. So many cool things are happening with Kickstarters and Troll Lord Games. Steven and all those guys, they've really gotten good at using Kickstarter to keep cool product going. They've really integrated that well into how they do business. So, but before we get to that, I want to throw out a couple other things, and then we'll dig into, what's the deal with this whole crate service anyway, and how do you make that happen? And then again, later in the show, we're going to talk about some cool Kickstarters that you need to be aware of, specifically RPG Kickstarters. So that's something that Jared suggested, and I said, man, that sounds like a great idea to me. So first of all, if you're listening to this on the 16th, December 16th, today at Shane Play show sponsor Game Goblins at Bowman and West Canis and West Little Rock, it's RPG Day all day. And there's I couldn't even tell you how many RPGs are going on today. It's a lot. So get on over there, have some fun, jump into an RPG. I mean, there's Star Wars, there's D&D, there's Pathfinder, there's Starfinder. I'm running GURPS, Dungeon Fantasy. That I got that via Kickstarter. So I'm gonna be running that in the evening at 6:30 p.m. tonight. And there's just a lot of great games. Go on over there, jump into a game, have fun. And that's going until 11 o'clock tonight. And I think it starts at 11 in the morning, 10 or in the morning. Now, if you're hearing this at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 16th, you'd probably have to get in on the second round of games, which is going to start, I think, around 5:30. And then you got games at 6:30. And I think there's maybe the game starting at 7. But get on over there and have some fun at Shane Plays sponsored Game Goblins for their RPG Day. And remember, folks, if you're a first-time customer at Game Goblins, mention Shane Plays, you'll get $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. And speaking of Troll Lord Games, they have this really cool thing going on right now where it's their Advent calendar. Have you seen this, Jared, what they're doing on their website? Yeah, absolutely. I really like it. It's a good thing. Cool way to do sales. Advent calendar, you have it's like you have a box for each day of the month. I guess it goes up through Christmas. And most Advent calendars, you open up the little door, the little window, and you either get a piece of candy or see a neat little picture or something like that. And this, every day, the new little door that opens up is another sale and a way to save money on great Troll Lord Games product like Castles and Crusades and Amazing Adventures and all their other great games. So go check out the Troll Lord Games Advent calendar on their website at trolllord.com. And last, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, I've got room on the show for basically, and I'm not looking to just run an ad for anybody. There's, I've gone through this. I want to build relationships and help people to be successful. But I've got room for like one new sponsor right now. So you can go to the website at shaneplays.com, and there's a advertising / promotional opportunities link that you can follow there and learn more about partnering up with Shane Plays in a way that I will help you and you will help me, and we can look back and measure success and all that great stuff. Okay, having said all that, let's get back to our guest, Jared, aka DM Jared of Illusionist, who an Illusionist has a lot of cool companies, including the Mythoard monthly RPG crate service. So tell us a little bit more, Jared. Like, if I subscribed to Mythoard, what would I be getting like last month, or what would I have gotten last month?
Well, if you look at mythoard.com, we have a log of all the past crates that we send out. And also, if you're at facebook.com/Mythoard, we have a list of those as well. One of our latest crates, which I really want to brag about, we have a great partnership with publishers, and Frog God Games has been a very consistent.
And I love the name Frog.
I know.
Anyway.
Well, it started out pretty kind of tongue in cheek, and then it was in his campaign, and it became.
Well, can I just say this before you move forward? I'm glad they're doing well and that they haven't croaked. Hold on. I get to show off. I get to show off a feature of Zencaster. Here we go. There we go. All right. I love the soundboard in Zencaster. Anyway, please proceed, Jared.
Well, I'm going to have to get you a bunch of gamer sounds for your radio show now.
That's true.
I'm under pressure
definitely.
now. So one of our latest crates was Razor Coast. And if you don't know what Razor Coast is, it's $100 book.
What?
So it's $100. And so that's the secret of crates themselves. So Frog God Games, they go do all their sales. They put things through retail channels. But, every once in a while, they run into a case where they've got extra books, or they have a print overrun, or, in the case of RPG books, sometimes they'll print a lot of Pathfinder versions of the book, but then they have the swords and wizardry version of the book. So, we called it the Pirate Booty Crate, which gets a little salacious, but that was $165 worth of product that they got for $29.
That is remarkable. So that is great. So,
but that box came with a very large inch-thick core book, a whole map folio of all the maps, a supplement book for all the PDF version of the whole book, plus a real treasure chest, some real coins, some real gemstones, and fake real gemstones, and So what we're trying to do is give you everything you need for one adventure that week at your game table. But in this case, you could play that for months and get a lot of value out of it.
That is excellent. So this is really exciting. And like you said, it's actually the first RPG, monthly crate kind of service. And I'm looking on your website right now, and the average, this doesn't mean that will be the minimum value, but the average value of your monthly Mythoards are $60 or more.
We always put $60 worth of value in every crate, and you're only paying $29 a month. So, and that gets really to the core value of crates. So if you want a product desperately, we really encourage you to go to your favorite friendly local game store, your FLGS.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. And that's important because the local game shops, they have tournaments, they have events just like your Game Goblins, and they're really there to offer a sense of community. There's conventions where you can go and just play games you would never get a chance to play anywhere else, which is fantastic, and play with terrain you'd never see anywhere. But the crate fills a very important niche. If you're a solo gamer, if you're an under-retailed area, or if you simply like a surprise, and that's what we call them, mystery crates. We tell you what you're going to get in advance, but the real secret here is you know what you want, and you're going to go buy that anyway. We're here to provide you with surprises and mysteries. So, you may have never heard of Small Press Publisher X, and he comes out like Tom Throwey comes out with these basic old school newsletters. A lot of people haven't even heard of them. So we put those in the box, get you some exposure to someone who would never get, they don't have enough money to advertise or do these other things. So we think that if you want to support small press, you ought to be a subscriber to Mythoard. It just gives these guys a shot.
Well, it's kind of now, first of all, and thank you for highlighting the friendly local game store. I really try to pump the friendly local game store, because they provide something that like Amazon or whatever community, they provide community, and our hobby depends on community to be successful. It doesn't matter what books you have or this, if you don't have community. So it's both and, not either or. You don't want just this, just the friendly local game store and nothing else. And you don't want just like Amazon or whatever. You want both, because the friendly local game store, they're brick and mortar, so they literally cannot have all inventory period in their store. But you want to support them for the community. And then you have services like yours, which add cool stuff to it. And the stuff that I think is cool about, like what you're offering, it's a lot like, it's the discoverability of stuff that you're probably not going to see in a game store, but you might see another gamer or a friend with it and go, what the heck is that? And then you get exposed to all this cool new stuff. So, and so that's kind of and you're getting it at a value, right? You're spending X a month, but you're actually getting, double or even more that value in. And one of the things that I saw from Mythoard that I thought was impressive when I was at Arkansas RPG Con that Carl Heil put on in October, and that's where you and I met. In the swag bag, the giveaway, there were little scenarios printed by your company that were like just on one little nice heavy stock card. And it was like, I could take that card and I could run a one-off RPG session just off that. And I thought that was really neat. And there were like little maps and a dungeon and a scenario. So how often do you do those?
So that's a monthly issue. And we're actually increasing that even more because I have a confession. I'm a gamer. And so I like to write. And so sadly, I'm a small press guy too, right? Nobody knows about me. And I was thinking, man, I'm shipping out all these boxes. I want in on the action. So I actually put my own adventures in the books. But that's actually grown too now. Now we have at least 6 writers on staff. Right. And I say role-playing game staff, which means we're a tiny little company, but they agree to write every month. But we're actually now expanding where we used to just buy a product once in a while from someone. Mm-hmm. We're now giving writers a monthly stipend every month to write a consistent themed adventure that carries from box to box to box. And so we think that's really an important aspect. And if you're an RPG freelancer, there's not a lot of money to go around unless you're really famous. And we're trying to bootstrap these guys and invest in talent that can and give them a monthly paycheck, basically. So we're pretty excited about it.
Most of the people I know in the industry, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, it's not their full-time thing because, they can't, there are a few that work full-time for a company. And there are a few that, can support them, but that's not usually the case. A lot of this stuff gets done on the side by people who just love the hobby. So, but yeah, I love those little one card scenarios. I was really impressed because you could literally use it like a bookmark, stick it in your player's handbook or Dungeon Master's guide or whatever, and then run a game that night. Or on we want to do you guys want to play D&D tonight or whatever, Dungeon Crawl Classics or Castles or Crusades. Let me see. Oh yeah, I got this little scenario here. Let's do it. And I really liked it a lot. So what I need to do is I want to get us to a break. And when we come back, I'm actually going to dig out a couple of my little scenarios there and give people an idea of what I'm talking about. And then I'd like, if you could just maybe to how do you make this work? Is it just, you got to have good relationships? Like, how do you make a crate service like this work? And then, like I said, we'll swing over for the second half of the show, over into, the Kickstarters, the top 3 Kickstarters to check out right now, RPG Kickstarters per Illusionist magazine. So does that sound good to you when we come back?
Yeah. Appreciate it, Shane.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. So when we come back, we'll have more with Jared, AKA DM Jared of Illusionist and Mythoard RPG crate service. And we'll be talking about top RPG Kickstarters to be paying attention to when we come back on Shane Plays Geek Talk.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today. The die is cast. Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions, Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/Shane Plays.
And we're back on Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. We're talking with Jared, aka DM Jared of Illusionist, Illusionist does many things up to and including the Mythoard RPG monthly crate service, and they have other cool crate services as well. And we're going to be talking later in the show about Illusionist's top three. Did I say Illusionist's? Illusionist's top 3 Kickstarters, RPG Kickstarters to be aware of. And there'll also be a link on the show notes at shaneplays.com there's a full 10 that they recommend, and you can go over to the Illusionist website and see all 10, but we'll be talking about the top 3 before the end of the show. Now, before the break, I was bragging on these little one page, really half a page, front and back printed, good cardstock. You can kind of hear it. And they're little scenarios that you get every month in the Mythoard crate service. And what they are is you could almost use it like a bookmark. And it is like a little dungeon, a little map, if you will, with notes and the scenarios. There's random tables on these things, and they're perfect for running a one shot or an impromptu RPG session, and they're written. Am I correct here in assuming, Jared, that these are somewhat system agnostic, or are they written for a specific system, or can they be adapted to multiple RPG systems?
You're going to find that Mythoard focuses on OSR, which is basically getting back to basics gaming,
which is fine with me, baby.
I know. But what we've learned is everybody converts to their own system, right?
Right.
So we actually have a new feature coming out after the Taylock Mayan Kickstarter that launches on the 18th, which is a thing called Any System. So right now, the Mythoard one-pagers are basically pretty agnostic. You can just convert them to whatever you'd like. But once we launch our Any System app, it's actually an iPad app and an iPhone app or an Android app. And you basically just can type in which one-pager you're looking at, and it gives you all the stats in your preferred system.
Nice.
For that one-pager.
Right.
So we're pretty excited about that. And that allows us to now publish full campaign books that don't have system-specific stats in them. So we don't have to print a Pathfinder version and an OSR version and a Swords of Wizardry version.
All right.
So we're pretty excited.
Yeah, I love all the OSR stuff. I started playing role-playing games in the early 80s. So, that's where my heart's at. I love the new systems too. And I play D&D 5e every week. And, I run other games. I run Numenera when I can, and I've run the new Star Trek Adventures. But I love OSR. And if I'm not playing an old game like, the Beck Me, if you will, the D&D, basic expert, not companion, is it companion, master, and then immortal rules. If I'm not literally playing one of the old systems, I love a system that evokes that feel. And like Castles and Crusades does that. Like you said, Swords and Wizardry, Dungeon Crawl Classics. I love it. I love all the interest in the old school feel. The dice can kill you. You might only have 2 hit points, kind of thing. And that just makes me happy in a deep, fundamental way that's hard to explain. But I love it very much.
I got to tell you, I was watching Stranger Things the other day.
Right.
And in 1979, I have a picture of me running a game as the dungeon master when I was 10 years old. And, it was the original D&D basic set. It was me with a folder, standing up like in a poor man's DM screen with those original dice.
Yep.
And I just, anytime I play an OSR.
Oh, sorry. Was it the dice that you had to crayon in the numbers?
Oh yeah, baby.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
And I had a ton of them. And I got to tell you, the feeling I have when I play an OSR game, it just takes me all the way back to 1979. And I just remember that. And, I was a 10-year-old punk kid who got picked on in school for being smart. But when I was game mastering, I was king of the world, man. Yeah. And that's the feeling I get when
I love it. It's hard to, it's hard to beat that feeling, and it's hard to explain it to somebody who doesn't maybe get it, but I love it. And speaking of OSR, Carl Heil, again, our mutual friend from Arkansas RPG Con, he will be running BECME, like basic expert rules D&D at that Game Goblins RPG Day today. And I think he's doing it fairly early at like 2:00 or something. So if you're listening to the show and want to play some old school D&D, get over, and I give you permission to stop listening to the show if you'll finish up on the podcast version and get over to Game Goblins right now and get in on Carl's game. So, and Carl loves OSR too. I mean, there was a heavy OSR influence at the Arkansas RPG Con, and he's really influencing me to go to this, is it North Texas RPG Con? Yeah, oh, yeah. I'm going to do my best to go there. So, Carl.
Well, we'll be an exhibitor there. We'd love to host you.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be there if I can. So, I would definitely love to. So, but anyway, these scenarios we were talking about in Mythoard Loot Crate, one of them was called The Stairs Below. And it's got a little, map here, and you get to, encounter something called a Nerdland Sage, GNURD. And then the other one is the Horrid Echoes of the Blue Blade. So that's the other scenario that I have here that has a Scary Sounds random table. And it's not an OSR game without a random table, baby. So, right. So anyway, just real quick before we shift over into the Kickstarter, talking about the top Kickstarters, do you mind? And again, I'm not asking you to give away, you've worked hard to learn how this stuff works. And I'm not asking you to, to just give away the keys to the kingdom or the secret sauce, but how does one get this to happen to where you offer all this great product at, a much cheaper rate than what the retail would be?
Well, take a look at those one-pagers. What you don't know about those is those are some really talented artists like Eric Lofgren and, Bradley McDevitt and people that illustrate some of these big games. It's just, they're kind of being told what to do for those games. And we give them, the way we write those one-pagers is we actually license the art first, and then we write a story around it. So it gives them a lot of creativity. But that's kind of how we curate all of the items for the boxes. These are items that people really want to do, and they're willing to put a little skin in the game to make it happen. So when you have a small press publisher, he has a couple of choices. He could take his game and go to a big distributor, fly out to the Alliance Distribution Open House, pay for a booth, pay for the shelving fee, pay for an ad in Game Train magazine. It's a lot of money up front. And these guys how do you get to the point where you're, and even then there's no guarantee the distributor is even going to buy your product.
Correct.
So this is a perfect example of saying, look, you can save all that money and just, we actually do print and ship service. So they don't even have to ship us a book. We simply say, send us the print ready PDF. We print it locally here in the United States, and then we ship it direct to the customer. And if you look at that, if a publisher paid to get it printed, he pays shipping to send it to him, and then he pays shipping to send it to us, and then we pay shipping to send it to the customer. Well, that's crazy. FedEx made more money off of that deal than anyone in the chain. So we just say, look, email me a file for free. We do the printing and we ship it straight out to the customers directly. So we just make it more efficient, and they get more exposure. our customer saves money, and everybody's happy. It's a
So
win.
let me ask you this. If there's a potential RPG company out there that would like to reach out to you and say, hey, we'd love to get our OSR type product into your Loot Crate, is this something that they could almost treat as an advertising expense? Do you know if any of the people you work with do that, or do they see it that way?
For certain, we strongly encourage people. Look, you're going to get this in the hands of 200 people right off the bat. So just tell us what you want to get. I mean, especially if you're doing Kickstarters and you've got free PDFs that kind of advertise the Kickstarter, we can go ahead and do like a pre-play or a quick start or a print and play for like card games. We can actually send out print and play. So it's very important to understand that Mythoard is a box with physical product in it, but it comes with a letter inside that gives you links to all the PDF downloads of even things that aren't even in the crate. So even if you don't have the budget to print or you don't want us to do the print and ship, give us your digital files, give us a sample character sheet, give us a quick start rule set, give us, and keep in mind, this is not just for game designers, but if you're an artist and you want to just put a print out of one of your pieces of art with your logo and your website on it, we'll do that. So, if you're a game designer, an illustrator, even if you're a terrain crafter, we have guys that take their Proxon machines and generate terrain out of foam. Well, we take that, we build a silicone mold for that, and then we duplicate it 200 times and put it in our box. So even terrain crafters can get their name in lights using the Mythoard service.
That is super cool. And I remember watching you doing some terrain type of stuff when we were at Arkansas RPG Con. Okay. What I want to do, just to make sure we have time to talk about the Kickstarters that we want to call out before the end of the show. Is there anything else that you specifically would like to mention about Mythoard before we move on?
I just want to call out Carl Heil and say that he's pulled off the one thing that most gamers can't pull off, and that's spousal support. Yeah. His lovely wife supports him no matter what he does, and she's a gamer. And I think, boy, isn't that the rarest thing in the world?
Yeah, they're great. I didn't get to meet her until Arkansas RPG Con, but she was very nice, and I like them both. So, okay, so moving on to the Kickstarters here now per Illusionist magazine. And there will be a link on shaneplays.com to where you can get a full 10 Kickstarters here that Illusionist magazine wants to make you aware of. But we have 3 in particular we want to talk about on this show. We have one that Illusionist is like, this Kickstarter needs funding. Another one is, hey, this has got a great combination of props and games. And then another one has an awesome ostimular and awesome bestiary. So which one do you want to start there with, Jared?
Well, I'd like to start with the one that needs funding. We got to help our buddies out here. And I'm a huge fan of Savage Worlds. And there's also a 2E version, it looks like here. But this is a Battlefield Press. They got 25 days to go, so there's plenty of time. And we like to help out small press. And I'm not saying Battlefield Press is too small. They're a known publisher. But they got a great swords and wizardry version of The Legend of Robin Hood. Who doesn't like Robin Hood?
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of riches, taking from the rich and giving to the poor, we'd like all of you rich pledge guys to give this guy. It looks like he's looking for $15. Right. Who can't give up $15?
Yeah, you get a soft cover and a PDF version of this at $15.
So we'll put the link up, but if you just go type in Kickstarter and then Sherwood, The Legend of Robin Hood, you'll see the Kickstarter pop right up. He's got 325 raised for a $1,500 goal, and we want to kick him over the top.
I think we can help him make that. This is, the Robin Hood Sherwood Forest setting, if you will, is a very well-known, rich setting. Touches on some very cool themes. Which actually, the whole legend of Robin Hood should really appeal to people right now, because there's so much talk of, the have and have nots and what is fair for people to have. And is it okay to, maybe appropriate? So I think this would be wonderful to see, kickstarted up to $1,500. And I've always wondered, Jared, tell me what your opinion is on this. one of these days it occurred to me that, but of course, Robin Hood, stole from the rich to give to the poor, right?
Yeah.
But is Robin Hood, and over time, has that come from he's a robbing hood? Right. I mean, I'm just curious. That occurred to me one day. And I wonder if that has any merit to it,
Well, and you've got Robin into Hood. So,
yeah, Robin Hood. Yeah.
The reality here is if you look at how small press publishers work, there is a lot of poverty,
right?
In any entertainment property you can think of. I mean, for anyone who wants to be a famous singer, there's a lot of starving famous singer and non-famous singers.
Right? Yeah.
But, I just love the irony. But when you're playing a game and you're able to replay a myth or legend and throw your own spin on it, I think it shows a lot of creative talent for these guys, and they're worth funding. I have to say, I just launched my own Kickstarter, which is the fog generating dice tower. And
wait, back up.
You didn't see that one? So if you Google for Kickstarter fog dice tower, I made 6 different designs of dice towers that spit fog out the bottom. And it's really cool. But that feeling I had when my Kickstarter funded is just an unbelievable feeling. And it's, it's my first Kickstarter. So, I'm small press too. And I hope we can give that same feeling of, hey, you guys really love me to the Battlefield Press guys and their Sherwood Kickstarter.
Yep. There it is right there. The Fog Machine Dice Tower.
But you got to see our movie. I'll post a link to it. It's really awesome.
Yeah, it's a real thing. You got the Cthulhu crate version, the Dwarven Cove version, the retro space version. What do you know?
Well, and that retro space version was our little last minute attempt to jump onto the Flash Gordon Kickstarter that Shane was doing. So we weren't able to get permission for the licensing, so we had to call it retro space. But I can't say it, but if you played Flash Gordon, you might like that one.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, with games such as Flash. By the way, I want to say that I love Flash Gordon has been around forever, but the Flash Gordon movie where Queen did the soundtrack and all of that has the best movie trailer of all time. I love the movie, but the trailer, go watch it. If you go to YouTube, folks, if you've ever seen it, and look for the high quality version, it's the best trailer ever made. So anyway, okay.
Well, I will say though, if you remember those old movies where the space marionettes and you could see the strings holding them up. Yeah. So our retro space dice tower, when you turn the fog machine on, the fog kind of drifts out of the booster rockets. It's really cool.
Cool. I love it. Yeah. All the designs are great here. So, all right. So here's what I'm going to do. I got to get us to another break. When we come back, we've got 2 more Kickstarters we're going to touch on. Then we'll wrap up the show. But I want to throw some love at a sponsor. Oh, let me say again. So what was that? That was the Sherwood, the Legacy of Robin Hood Kickstarter from Battlefield Press. So folks, you got 25 days. See, well, we're recording this ahead of time. By the time this airs and you hear it, you should still have a good week or 2 to go support this. So go check out the Sherwood Legend of Robin Hood Kickstarter from Battlefield Press and check that out. But throw some love at a sponsor. We'll go to a break, and when we come back, we'll have more of Kickstarters you should know about from Illusionist magazine and Jared here. So anyway, here we go. Some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. Conveniently located at 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis in West Little Rock, and staffed by friendly employees, Game Goblins has expanded their store size, and there's plenty of room for exciting inventory and expanded table and just tables for play space. You'll like that space because Game Goblins has gaming events every day of the week. Remember, today, if you're listening to this on the 16th, they've got an RPG day going over there. Go over there and jump into some good tabletop RPG action. Now, for all your gaming needs, I heartily recommend Game Goblins. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Tell them Shane Plays sent you. Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. This is a pre-recorded show this week, so don't try to call in. And we're using Zencastr, that's ZENCASTR.com to do this recorded show, pre-recorded show. If you want a podcast, if you're interested in getting podcasting, recording shows, that sort of thing, need recording software, go check out Zencastr.com. And it uses browser. You record everything through the browser with your guest. Everything is saved. Your stuff is saved on your hard drive. Their stuff is saved on their hard drive. And then when everything is said and done, Zencastr puts it together, and you have a really high quality recording that then you can push out. So I'm testing it out with Jared. I like it very much so far. It's even got soundboards, so you can have your intro and outro stuff and little sounds and stuff you can play during the game. It's a nice, clean interface. So check out Zencastr. The Jared, my guest, aka DM Jared of Illusionist, who does Mythoard, monthly RPG crate, and many other things, who is my guest. So, Jared, we were talking before the break. We talked about a Kickstarter that we wanted to help out and make sure they fund, and that was Sherwood, the Legend of Robin Hood from Battlefield Press. Now, there were two other Kickstarters here that you wanted to talk about. One, you told me, was a great combination of props and games, and the other one has an awesome bestiary. So which of those two would you like to look at?
Well, I think Idol of Cthulhu is next.
Okay, that's the great combination of props and games. So let's check it out.
I think it's kind of a new take, right? So normally you get a book or you might get a board game, but on this one you're getting, and if you played Call of Cthulhu at all, it's all about the investigation, right? So you're not a knight or a paladin. You're an investigator that is trying not to go insane.
But you probably eventually will.
Well, that's the whole point of the game, right? If you're successful, you will go insane.
Right.
But you have to drop clues. And so what they're trying to do, which I think is very creative, they have little clues. So there's these printouts and clips from old timey newspapers and little statues and figurines and sound files and paper props. So I just think, if you're a game master or a Cthulhu master and you've got your people who want to just get immersed in the setting. I mean, I read about one guy who was concerned that his players were so scared one of them started to cry. What? So don't go that far, but
yeah, don't make your characters cry, or don't make your players cry.
Or you're a really awesome DM, but I just think this is worth funding, and it's already funded, right. So you're sure to get a nice jazz out of it. But it's a 5,800 goal, and they have already funded 9,406. Basically, got 71 backers, and they got 17 days to go. So they'll probably hit. And if you don't know about Kickstarter trends, Kickstarter will feature your game on the first 2 days, and then they'll feature you on the about to expire pages for the last 2 days. And if you watch how your backers roll in, you'll see a whole bunch in the front and a whole bunch on the back, and this plateau in the middle.
Right.
So they're right in their middle plateau. We'd love to see a spike, because if there's a spike, they can blame Shane Plays Radio for that. So
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to see that happen. Okay, so that's the Idol of Cthulhu Kickstarter. Of course, these links will be on the shaneplays.com show notes, and there will be a link to Illusionist website that will have a full 10 Kickstarters that they recommend checking out. So that's the Idol of Cthulhu. And then last but never least, there was one that you said, hey, this has got an awesome bestiary. I actually saw this one the other day. I was looking at it independently of you highlighting it, and that's the Creature Codex 5th edition monsters from Kobold Press. So tell us a little bit about this one, Jared.
Well, in the Wayne's World movie, when they bow down and say we're not worthy, that's kind of how I feel about Kobold Press. I'm not worthy to even talk about these guys. They're so good. And look at the art. I mean, the art is unbelievable.
That's like a lich with, it looks like a lich with some undead minions, and that's a fantastic piece of artwork right at the top of the Kickstarter page.
I mean, these guys are just top notch. I mean, and anyone in the RPG business who sets their pledge goal of $30,000 means they know they've got the goods, and they've already funded for $100,000.
Right.
So that's just an unbelievable success story, and good for them. And I think that if you really want top quality Kickstarters for people that have done this a million times and they're going to deliver, that's Kobold Press and their Creature Codex 5th edition.
All right, fantastic. So we had the Legend of Sherwood, the Legend of Robin Hood from Battlefield Press. Then we had The Idol of Cthulhu, a scenario and props for Call of Cthulhu. And then we have Creature Codex 5th edition monsters, including commissions from Kobold Press. So check out, those are the 3 Kickstarters we're talking about in the show today. And then, of course, go to shaneplays.com, check out the show notes for the link to Illusionist magazine for the 10 full Kickstarters they recommend you checking out. Or just go to, what's the Illusionist website there? Go ahead and throw that out there, Jared.
So it's spelled www.illusioni.st.
Okay.
So or you Google for Illusionist magazine. And just for selfish reasons, this show premieres on the 16th. Our Kickstarter for Taylock, the Mayan role-playing game, launches on the 18th of December, and we would love to have you guys at the launch of our next Kickstarter.
Yeah, throw that out there again. Go ahead and say it. That's fine. Yeah,
that's Taylock Mayan. So we're actually going to do a Kickstarter with a full terrain set that lets you build your own pyramids. It's really cool.
Oh, that's super cool. And that's great. All right. Well, I love that. Well, I wish I had more time to talk about it, but I've got to kind of draw the show to a close. Folks, we'd like to turn this into a recurring segment, every few shows. So give myself and or Jared some feedback on whether you'd like to have more Kickstarters highlighted, as part of a Shane Plays, kind of recurring segment, and we'll see how it goes. But Jared, thanks so much for having been on. And folks, don't forget to check out Mythoard, the first RPG loot crate service, and then or crate service, and then there's many other crate services that Illusionist offers as well. So check those out. And then we got to do this, Jared. I warned you in advance. We have to have the bad joke of the week. So okay. I can, I had you sign a waiver, so I'm not going to be responsible for any mental damages that result from the bad joke of the week. So are you ready?
I'm ready. Give it to me.
All right. 2 Eskimos sitting in a kayak were chilly, so they lit a fire in the craft. Unsurprisingly, it sank, proving once again that you can't have your kayak and heat it too. Okay, here we go. No, I got to use the Zencastr. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, folks, check out the Zencastr, zencastr.com service. That's what we use to record this show. If you're wanting into recording shows or getting into podcasting or whatever, check it out. You can get in there and check it out. They've got a good free basic program, and then you can, upgrade, if you really like it and want to take it further. So anyway, Jared, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm looking forward to the show airing on the 16th, and I look forward to doing future shows with you.
Let's game on.
Let's do it. Game on, folks. We'll catch you next time on Shane Plays.
We're men, manly men, we're men in tights. Yes! We roam around the forest looking for fights. We're men in tights. We run from the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like pansies, but don't get us wrong or else we'll put out your lights. We're men in tights, tights. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. When you're in a fix, just call for the men in tights. We're bunch.
Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.